Hey everyone, so today's video is another one of those kind of hypothetical situation tag videos. This is going to be if I could only keep 10 eyeshadow palettes. So this is actually really fun to go through my collection and really see what palettes I have and choose 10 eyeshadow palettes that also had a good variety in them. So I was kind of surprised by some of the palettes I chose, and you may be surprised by my picks if you've been watching my videos for a while. So the first one is from Voss, and I did choose the Holy Grail palette. So this was kind of the one I chose as my everyday neutral palette because it has so many neutral shades in here. This is really all you need to create any neutral look, and it has a little bit of it has a side with cooler tones over here, and then this side is a little bit warmer. So I like that it has that variety as well. And obviously this is like my main neutral palette that I chose, but some of these other palettes are also going to be pretty neutral just because that's what I tend to wear the most. And I was surprised. I was going to pick my Juvia's Place, the Nubian palette, which is just a super neutral palette, but I feel like the Violet Voss Holy Grail palette has a lot more variety in it, and it is a little bit of a bigger palette, but that is the biggest palette that I included in this because I don't know if I've mentioned before, but I don't really like bigger palettes, and I actually just did a eyeshadow declutter video, and I pretty much decluttered most or all of my bigger palettes just because they're really big, so I find that I never reach for them and they're just kind of annoying to store and to have. So the next palette I chose is also kind of a more neutral palette, but it's more of like a glam palette. So this is the Colored Raine Queen of Hearts, and if you've been watching my videos, you know I had to include this. This is probably my favorite, or one of my favorite palettes in my collection. It's just the perfect neutral palette, but it also has this pop, like this berry tone and this orange shade, so you can do a little bit of a pop of color if you want, but still sticking to those more neutral, natural tones. So yeah, I do really love this palette, and I also really love the formula of this. Now the next one, I don't know if you would really consider this a palette, but I went through my collection and was comparing things, and I chose out the palettes that I knew I wanted in this video, and then I only had 9 and I wanted to do 10, so I did also choose this to include. This is the Kaja little trio in the shade Toasted Caramel. So this is just 3 shimmer shades, and these shimmer shades are beautiful. They're more like lid toppers, which are my favorite kind of eyeshadows really, so I am really glad that I included this. And honestly, I would be fine with having these 10 eyeshadow palettes, and not that I would get rid of all the other eyeshadow palettes in my collection, but if I just had these 10, I would be pretty okay with it. The next few palettes were not a surprise. I knew I was going to include at least a couple from Anastasia Beverly Hills. So the first one is the Sultry palette, and of course this is a more neutral, cool tone palette. It does have this pop of coral, but the reason I chose this is mostly for these metallic shades that are super beautiful, and honestly I haven't gotten much use out of this palette. I really need to use it a lot more, but these metallic shades look so pretty, and they're a bit more unique. Like this goldish green shade called Steampunk looks super pretty, so I do definitely need to get a lot more use out of this, but I mostly chose this for some of these metallic shades. And then the next one that right away I knew I was definitely going to include is the ABH Jackie Aina palette. This is one of my favorite, more versatile palettes. I feel like you can literally get any look out of this. You have some of these purpley and pink pops of color, but you also have these warm tone and more natural shades that you can create like an everyday look with. So this is one of my favorite palettes in my collection, and I think it's just so versatile. And then finally, the last ABH palette I chose is the Norvina palette, and this has some of those purple tones, but it also has some more pink shades, and I just really like this palette, especially the metallics in here are beautiful. Also, the ABH formula is probably my favorite, or one of my favorites, so that's why I included all of these ABH palettes. But yeah, I just really love their metallic formula, and their matte formula is also really good as well. Now, I did choose one palette from Colourpop. I chose the Yes Please palette just to get more of those peachy tones. This really has like all the peachy tones I would need, and I also like that it has these pressed glitters. A lot of people don't like these pressed glitters. I feel like I say this a lot because they're not eye safe, but I'm just really careful and make sure not to get them anywhere close to my eye. But I really like these. I find that they're a lot easier than like loose glitters. They're not as messy. There's really no fallout with them if you apply them the correct way. And I also like that this palette has a Super Shock formula in here because the Colourpop Super Shock shadows are some of my favorites. So I feel like this kind of has a little bit of everything in terms of Colourpop formula. And yeah, this is kind of the only peachy tones I have out of all of these palettes. And then the next one that I knew I was absolutely going to include is the Natasha Denona Sunrise palette. This is a really pretty, more summery palette, and I guess this does have a couple peachy tones in here, but it also has some more orangey and yellow tones, so I really like that. And you can create like a super natural look with like some of these shades right here, but you can also incorporate a bunch of color using these orangey and more berry tones over here. So I do really love this palette. It's one of my favorites. Like, I feel like I've been saying that for all of these palettes. Oh, actually, I totally lied. I did choose another Colourpop palette, and I knew I wanted to include a palette with those purpley tones. So the one I chose is the Lilac Yola, and purple is my favorite color, and I think it makes my blue eyes stand out a lot when I wear it. So I do really like a good purple cool tone look. So this palette obviously is a lilac palette, so it's monochromatic, so you're gonna get like similar looks every time you use this palette, but I don't really mind this, and it's only 9 pans, so I feel like it's a bit more compact and smaller than some other palettes, and this does have a good variety of mattes and shimmers in here. So these are kind of the main purple tones I chose. And then finally we have the last palette is the Almay Cosmetics Reina del Caribe palette. This was my palette of the month for July, and I do have a Shadow Saturday series tutorial with this. These are some of my favorite metallic formulas, and I also like this because I feel like some of these shades are a little bit more unique. You have these matte shades down here, which you literally have like every kind of color and tone you need, and I feel like this is very versatile still with being like a small and compact palette because you only have 8 shades in here. But I really love this greenish gold shade. I feel like it's really unique and I don't have anything else like it in my collection. And also this light blue shade I also really love, and I feel like it looks intimidating in the pan, but I feel like when I put this onto my eyes, it's not as scary and it actually looks really pretty. So I do really love the formula and color story of this. So that's it for all 10 of the palettes that I would keep if I could only keep 10. Let me know if any of these picks surprised you guys, and also let me know what some of your favorite eyeshadow palettes are down below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and I do post new videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, so if you want to see more from me, make sure to subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell icon to get notified every time I post. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.